Okay, we're picking up pretty much right where we left off. This file is called lesson 08 begin. It's identical to lesson 07 end. So now that we kind of have a general groom over here, I mean, things are at least running roughly in the correct direction. They don't have to be perfect just yet. We can go ahead and start working with a couple other things, notably the length. Now, to change the length over here, we can adjust it overall by coming down here into the settings and changing this setting. You can see as I increase that, we get longer fur versus shorter fur, but it of course affects everything. We want to be able to customize a bit. However, it's nice to be able to change this just to kind of give ourselves a starting point. So I want maybe something a little bit longer, something maybe like that. So I went from 0.5 to let's say 0.8. Okay, so just slightly longer fur. So we can now come up here to our length brush. Okay, this one can get a little bit confusing, but once you know how to use it, it's actually not bad at all. We have two options. We have the increment and the goal length. Right now, our increment is 0.1 units, maximum being 5. So if I come up here, you can see it's beginning to increase the overall length of our fur. So I'm just kind of doing that, and it's starting to pop out over there. So obviously lengthening the fur is fairly easy, but how would we shorten the fur? Well, a couple things we need to do. First of all, we actually need it to reverse and have a different goal. Let's say maybe a goal length of 0. Notice nothing happens now though. In addition to giving it a low goal length, we actually also have to give it a negative increment. And now you can see I can begin shortening my fur. So again, once you know how to do it, it's actually pretty easy, and it actually does make quite a bit of sense. It really confused me at first. It was just kind of like, how on earth do I shorten the fur? And it's really pretty much just that easy. So I'm shortening it quite a bit on his chest over here, maybe a little bit shorter on the neck. That's because, again, the gorillas do have much shorter fur in front. Again, I might lengthen it a bit more than I have it at the moment. It's okay for now. It's also a tiny bit shorter on the bicep area over here, but starts to get significantly longer on the back, on the shoulders, and on the forearms. So I'm going to just quickly run through here, do a little bit more kind of that overall shortening anywhere I think that needs it. We'll go ahead and flip everything to the right. You can see it works just fine for length as well as for, combing direction. Let's go ahead and bring that down a bit. And actually I might do one of those bits like where he has kind of almost like don't like that, a slightly larger patch of fur, maybe right across his pecs over here. Let's go ahead and give that a goal length of 5. Kind of bring that back out. Again, we'll flip to the right. And let me go ahead and bring my brush down a little bit. I'm just going to kind of almost increase right there. We can flip that to the right. So he kind of has that little just patch over there. And maybe it kind of comes down the center of his body right over here. So again, shorter here, shorter up here, and just kind of this patch over here. We'll see how that works. I may ultimately take that out. Let's go ahead and lengthen a bit more up over here. Now, this is kind of going off in a weird direction. We can kind of see that a little bit more obviously now that the fur has gotten a bit longer. So I'm going to jump to my pose tool and kind of just rebrush this fur around a little bit. It's not as responsive as you might always want it to be, but it's actually still relatively easy to use, especially compared to the old fur combing tools we used to have, or we do still have inside of Maya's fur system. It's a little weird right there, but it's getting a little better. Let's go ahead and lengthen these forearms. I'm going to go ahead and get a slightly bigger brush, and let's put that goal length. Actually, goal length is probably fine. Let's bring our increment to like 0.3. And let's really start kind of just lengthening that fur. Now notice I'm kind of having these areas where fur kind of cuts in. It's also not very even in how it's kind of being lengthened. Don't worry too much about that. It's actually going to be very easy to start kind of fixing those issues. I'm going to go ahead and paint a little bit more length up over here. Probably a little more at his back as well. The gorillas tend to have much longer fur on their backs. Again, just not so much on the front, but backs and sides have a decent amount. Okay, So to kind of start fixing some of these issues over here, I can use this smooth brush, which is fantastic. It's going to kind of just begin blending the fur together. So you can see we can change individually how much it blends length, orientation, and bend. And now I'm kind of just letting it do a little bit of everything. Okay, looks like there might be some issue with directionality right there. Things are getting cut in a bit. It might also be an elevation issue. There we go. Let's see, maybe the same thing right there a bit. Okay, so just kind of elevating that fur a bit more. Now that's longer, it's just starting to really kind of cut into itself there. Let's go ahead and adjust this area right here a bit, right over here. The fur might look very even right now. Don't worry too much about that. We do have ways of kind of randomizing it quite a bit more. Now I'll also grab my smooth brush and again start kind of averaging those areas out a little bit. Really a great tool to have. Okay, so we're starting to get slightly longer fur at the arms. It looks a little silly at the moment, but it'll all start coming together soon. So just kind of now begin blending the fur together, kind of the long with the short. We will most likely have to do some extra grooming as well because we are, messing with some of the directions now. Notice that it is kind of re-lengthening these areas, and that's because it's seeing, very short here, very long here, and it's kind of just interpolating. So again, I'll have to come in and probably re-shorten some of those. This here, to me, looks like I could use a bit of a pop out with the elevation brush. Probably a bit right there too. Okay, let's pop all that out just a little bit more. Okay, so things are looking pretty good. And this is what I'm going to be doing for a little while. I'm going to be messing with length, pose, orient, bend, elevation, and smooth. Now, to kind of at least begin getting a little bit of a preview of how this will look when it's randomized a touch, you can actually use noise over here as well. We'll talk more about this one later because we're going to use it to fine tune. But at the moment, you can actually use these defaults and just kind of run through here and just randomize the fur enough so you can start to get an idea if it's going to look kind of the way you want it to. So let's go ahead and just run that across the surface a bit there. I can actually grab my, jump to the run menu there, my length brush, and I'm going to go ahead and again do a negative length here, do negative 0.1 with a goal length of 0. And I want to go ahead and start shortening at the hands here. There's no reason to have this be extremely long, especially since it doesn't actually exist in the final render. It'll just give me a better way to kind of visualize it. So I'm just going to shrink all that down. That way I can see exactly, or at least visualize in my head a little better, how the fur kind of comes down over here. Okay, I don't care if there's a little bit of it visible. I just want to have a general idea of how it kind of creeps across the hand. Okay, so I want to kind of shorten it a bit as we get here, but I'm also going to want longer areas as well. I'm going to shorten a little bit up over here again at the bicep, and it's gotten a little long over here, a little longer than I at least want it to be. You can do the same thing down at the bottom here. You can obviously shorten all of this quite a bit. If it helps you visualize things, again, the fur doesn't actually exist there anyway. Okay, I want to go ahead and again shorten here some more where things, and I'm going to fix that where it's gotten really short, because we know the chest shouldn't have too much length to it. I'll grab my smooth tool and that'll help bring at least a little bit of it back right there. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and flip to right. Oh, and there we go. It's starting to come together. Let me go ahead and maybe shorten up here at the top of the head as well, just kind of throwing me off a little bit. Just easier to visualize. Messed up a little bit there. I'll just grab a small brush and just go ahead and smooth that out. It adds a little bit more back on there, but again, it's not a big deal. Shorten that right there. Actually, try to smooth that seam out a bit. There we go. It'll probably come back as soon as I flip things, but anyway, I'm going to continue doing this for a bit between lessons, and when we come back, we're going to come and look at even more tools to really start getting an even more of a custom effect, really start making it look like this fur is kind of sticking out over here. So I'll see you guys in the next lesson.